Hi, Lindsay. And we see Shannon there. So it's
Hi,
right
Shannon.
it's right at hi there. It's right at 7 o'clock. I'm gonna welcome everybody that's here and not here if you're watching on demand when you do watch our learning event tonight with Matt Weld, Gateways to a Mindfulness Practice. I am super excited about this because you know what? We all need to renew and reboost our practices from time to time. And it's so important that we connect and learn from others. Matt, I'm super honored to have you here, former board member. You do all kinds of awesome things. And I want you to introduce yourself to talk about what you're up to in the world of mindful education and welcome everybody. So we shall begin.
Well, thank you, Thea, and all the Cosm people watching now and in the future. It's kind of weird to be talking to like my future self, right? Yeah, so as Thea mentioned, I am or was on the Cosm board for my term. I still help out occasionally because Cosm is amazing. Currently, my professional gig is as an SEL coach down for Regional Office of Education number 40 in Southwestern Illinois. Um, and so I know a lot of these. I think I know everybody on this call, actually. So they're my people. I love them.
I love that. Your people. That's what we're here, a community of mindful practitioners
That's exactly
connecting,
right.
reconnecting. If you're watching on demand and you're learning new faces here, welcome to the tribe of mindful educators at Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully. Happy to have you here in the community.
Yeah. So that's what I do during the day. I'm also a registered yoga teacher, and I teach yoga teachers about the pranayama aspect of the yoga practice, the yoga philosophy. So, with that being said, let's dive in today. This is put together as kind of a session that can allow us to explore 5 different activities that in and of themselves can be their own practice. We're going to look at intention. We're going to look at breath work. We're going to look at mindfulness, yoga, and meditation. And we're going to practice each one of those. I'm going to guide you through everything. So if this is a first time for you for each one of those, we're good. All right. I'm going to guide you through everything. Um, and then what I like to do with these sessions is I then take those core elements and I model how those core elements can actually fit into every aspect of your life. So I've done 50 some of these sessions, and today each one's different, but today we're going to be talking about patience because I think as you start a new practice, patience is one of those things that you need to remind yourself of because you want to be an expert right away, but it doesn't always happen that way. Right. And so as we look at patience, we're going to be using patience as like the overarching theme throughout the rest of our time together today. But we'll weave it into the breath work, the meditation, the yoga, and all that kind of thing too. All right. Just an example of how you can use each one of these 5 things throughout all parts of your day, all parts of your life, personal, professional, etc. All right. And if at any time you have a question or you want to drop something in the chat, that would be cool. I just opened it up. I do have a link. Let me put that in here. It is it's a think sheet. Copy link. Here we go. This is a Google Doc link for those of you online today, and it will force you to make a copy. So in case you do want to edit it or anything, you can, follow along in there. So it also has it. So it's 2 pages. The first page is like some notes, and we'll be kind of going through those first off. And then the second page is some questions, and I'll be giving you time here in a little bit to reflect on and maybe answer some of those questions for yourself as you're thinking about patience and what tries your patience and where you're good at patience and that kind of thing. All right. So Uh, let's start off then with the first of our 5 practices that we're going to do tonight, and that is setting your intention. And just remember that an intention is setting your attentional filter to remain aware of a specific purpose. Right? So you're putting your attention, you're putting something in the back of your mind so that the next time something challenging comes up, or just throughout the rest of your day, it's that niggling thing in the back of your mind. Oh, I need to choose joy today, or ooh, I'm working on practicing patience today. It's like a daily affirmation. That's the same thing. If you work on daily affirmations or setting goals and you read through them at the beginning of each day, or maybe you subscribe to the whole like word of the month or word of the year, that's all setting an intention. All right. And if you have a yoga practice of your own, hopefully your yoga instructor also sets up an intention at the beginning of the hour and keeps reminding you of that, and it helps provide a through line for the rest of your time together. All right. So let's talk about some definitions of patience. I found 2. The first one is from the Cambridge Dictionary, and it says that patience is the ability to accept delay, suffering, or annoyance without complaining or becoming angry. All right, the ability to accept delay, suffering, or annoyance without complaining or becoming angry. Vocabulary.com says that patience is a person's ability to wait, but the ability, no, wait, hold on. I got a person's ability to wait something out or endure something tedious without getting riled up. All right. And then the quote of the day, if you are accepting this intention for tonight's work together, and if you have something else that you're working on, that's cool too, is by Joyce Meyer. And she says that patience is not the ability to wait, but the ability to keep a good attitude while waiting. All right. So pick the part of patience that speaks to you. And let's just take a breath cycle, a breath in and a breath out to set that intention. Lock it in place, and we'll keep referring to it. I'll keep reminding you, but because it is your intention, you have the ability now to bring it back to the forefront as we move through this evening. All right. Okay. So with intention being done, let's move into the next part, which is breath work. Uh, Breath work is using your breath as a way to regulate your sympathetic nervous system and become physically aware. Okay, we can't regulate much of our sympathetic nervous system at all. We can regulate our breathing, and then the breathing nerves are connected directly to our heart nerves, which then can affect our pulse rate, which then affects all kinds of other things. So really, breath work is the key to regulation. And if you ever feel dysregulated, using your breath as a tool to become regulated is a great way to go. All right, so the breath work we're going to be using today is a little bit different. And I think Carlo will recognize this one. This is the one where we're going to use 2 different kinds of breath work, and we're going to tie them together. One is an old-fashioned one, and one is a newer one, and we're going to stitch them together. And so when you're thinking about coming up with a new system of meditation or mindfulness practice, whatever it is you're looking for as you start something new, don't be afraid to take what you already know, add something that new, and stitch them together. Okay, it doesn't have to be something completely new when you're starting, a new mindfulness practice. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to use what's called circle or psychedelic breathing. And it sounds like this. All right, I'm kind of stuffed up, so I'm going to have to do it through my mouth. All right, so bear with me. Ideally, breath work should be done through your nose, but basically it's an inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So quicker, faster than you do normally. All right. Now we're going to pair that then with fire breathing, which is about double time of what we just did. So it sounds like, all right. And what I want you to think about when you're doing this breath work is don't just send it here, right? So much of our time in our daily lives, we breathe. I know it goes down into your lungs, but we never expand our chest to really feel the breath. We never send it all the way into our belly so that our whole thoracic cavity expands to fill up with our breath. All right. So make sure that when you're doing these breaths, even though they're fast, maybe put a hand on your belly. Can't see mine. Put a hand on your belly and make sure that your belly moves in and out so that when you suck in the air, your belly goes out. And when you then push it out with your diaphragm. So it's all right, quick like that. So we have the slow one. Then we have double time, right? And then we're going to do a big inhale and a big exhale. And then in pranayama, it's called kumbhaka. We're going to take a pause. And that pause, though, will be at the bottom of a breath cycle. Normally we take it at the top when our lungs are full. This time we're going to do it at the bottom when our lungs are empty. All right. So you know the two breath types we're going to do, right? Now what we're going to do is and I'll guide you through all this. I just want you to know what's coming up. We're going to do 30 seconds of the one count, the circle breathing. Then we're going to do 20 seconds of fire breathing, and then 10 seconds back to the slower breath work. And then we're going to take a big inhale, hold at the top, big exhale. So our lungs are completely empty. And then I'm going to set the timer for 1 minute, and we'll see if we can keep our lungs empty, meaning hold your breath for 1 minute. All right. All right. A little more challenging than the traditional box breathing or something like that, but I know you guys can do it. All right, let me find my timer. So I'm ready. All right. So let's get into our breathing position. So find a comfortable seat in your chair. Lengthen your spine a little bit so that your diaphragm has room to move and your torso has room to expand. Your ribs have room to expand. And then just find your breath. And when people say find your breath, you're like, wow, it's always here, right? That means notice your breath, maybe for the first time today. I encourage you to close your eyes. If not, maybe lower them down to your keyboard or your lap. All right. And taking a breath in and a breath out. Here we go. 30 seconds of the fire breathing. Inhale, exhale. Keep going at your pace. 5 seconds left. Empty your lungs out. Here we go. Double time. Halfway there. Keep going. In, out, in, out. Preferably through your nose. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1. Back to normal breath. Back to the first one. In, out. Slowing it back down. Out. One more breath in. One more breath out. Now take a nice breath in. Big, big, big. Fill up your belly all the way. Take another sip in. Fill it up some more and hold it. And then just let it fall out nice and gently. All the way out, all the way out. And then rest with your lungs empty. The timer has been started. We're already at 7 seconds. Now, what I encourage you to do, I'm going to distract you a little bit while you're holding your breath. What I encourage you to do is when you first feel that little bit of air hunger, to work through it. You get that little mini panic mode, but it's okay. Just work through it, and your body's like, oh, okay, he's in charge or she's in charge. We got this. All right. The other thing you can do is totally distract yourself. So think about something else, read something on the screen, listen to my voice as we do that. And we only have 10 seconds left. So if you're still with me with an empty set of lungs, maybe just take a little sip, just enough to get you through. Here we go. In three, two, one, and we're done. Return to normal breath. So whatever that looks like for you. And then drop it in the chat. I would love to hear what that was like for you. Was that challenging? Was it calming? Was it energizing? I think you felt both. And that's probably what you should feel because, exhales, when you focus on the exhale of a breath cycle, that's calming, right? And when you focus on the inhale of the breath cycle, that's energizing. And we did both. Yeah. So calming to the last 30 seconds. Yeah, I can't do a full minute. I have to take a little breath too, but goals, right? Goals. And that's all part of patience and creating a practice is you just keep working slowly but surely, one step at a time. Yeah. All right. So now let's talk a little bit about patience. So there are three types of patience. Let me drop the document in the chat one more time in case there are new people. There's that interpersonal practice, patience, where we have to practice being patient with other people. I spent the weekend with my mother. I flew to Montana to be with her, and she is becoming very forgetful. And so the whole weekend was a lesson in patience. Both my sister and I, we'd get the same question 5 times in a row in a conversation, right? So that interpersonal patience is definitely a skill that we need to cultivate. Another type of patience is that long-term patience. And I think this is the patience that most people think about when they hear the word patience, right? We need patience to reach a goal. We need patience and to be compassionate with ourselves when we are setting up a new practice, right? This is when we are, as educators, we get a new group of students at the beginning of the year and we're like, hey, we can't change them in a day, but by May, perhaps we'll see growth, right? I like to practice gardening. I collect orchids, and just while I was gone, one of my orchids bloomed for the first time in 2 years. That's patience. Oh, Lindsay, there we go. Yep. So gardening is an exercise in patience too. So that's the long-term patience. And then the opposite of that would be the short-term patience. And that's the patience that's getting tried a lot with media and our access to things. Like everything is right now. And so our short-term patience is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Right. So web pages don't load. Um, your kid gets sick right before you need to leave for school, and then you're like scrambling to get lesson plans together or something like that. So the short-term patience, the long-term patience, and the interpersonal patience are what I see as the three main areas of patience. All right. And then I think it's important to not just remember that patience and every emotion for that in this sense, or in any case, is in its own little box, but remember that they're like Venn diagrams. So you're going to have patience, but then there are going to be emotions that are not completely separate. They overlap a little bit. And those would be the adjacent emotions. So one of the things that you're going to feel when you're working on patience is frustration, right? You're going to get frustrated with yourself when this new mindfulness practice isn't going as fast as you thought it would be. You're not seeing the results that you wanted to, or that maybe you saw on Instagram or some other influencer, right? Um, Empathy would be then a positive one. As you grow in patience, I think that your empathy will then also grow too, because those two are closely related. And then the flip side of empathy might be disappointment, right? As we work through disappointment, it takes patience to do that, right? All right. There are also adjacent skills, and that would be perseverance as we're working to, you know, succeed in our new mindfulness practice. We need to persevere, as with any goal. Self-discipline and motivation. We need to really talk about our boundaries. If you guys need a book, on boundaries, Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Glover Tawwab, I think is how you pronounce her last name. We did this last month, and the responses I got from like the 80 some participants that we had that wrote reflections on it said this, like everybody needs to read this, especially as educators or people in a helping profession, because boundaries, we don't have good ones. They are very porous, right? So when you're working on patience, one of the things that can help with patience is making sure that your boundaries are in place. All right. Also, listening. To be able to listen, you have to be patient. So often we listen to answer rather than listening to understand. And that's not being patient, right? Listening to understand takes patience. And of course, those difficult conversations. When we're practicing empathy and listening and perseverance all together to have those tough conversations, that's definitely a good skill to have too. All right. All right. So what I'd like to do is take like 5 minutes and have you guys think about the second page. There are what, five questions on there. I'll just read them off for those of you who don't have access to it right now, or maybe on the recording. What makes you impatient? And I'll bet that if you actually write those down and think about them, they're tied to your pet peeves, and your pet peeves are closely tied to your identity. Okay. Um, and in your first family. All right. The second one is, what emotions do you feel when you're impatient? We talked about some adjacent emotions like disappointment, frustration. So, what emotions do you feel when you're impatient? Third one, how do you physically feel when you're impatient? So, when you get that frustration or that you're feeling like the traffic's not moving fast enough, like where in your body? Where in your body do you feel it? Do you tense your shoulders? Does your gut feel weird? Do you curl your toes? Right? The fourth one, do you have a typical knee-jerk response to impatience? If so, what is it? And then the last one, how do you cope with or manage? It didn't say control, it said manage impatience. Right? So just go ahead and I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes. It looks like at 7:20. We'll come back at 7:30. How about that? All right. So just go ahead. You can turn off your cameras if you want to. If you're listening to this later on, you can pause, and you if you're listening to this later on, you can take as much time as you want. All right. But we're of those of us tonight, we are going to come back at 7:30.
On. Welcome to All Tech Lansing. Now paired. Enjoy.
The music sounds distorted. I don't know who's playing it, but there's a distortion.
All right, and finish up wherever you are. And if this is got you going on something, by all means, keep on doing it. Right. All right. So we've been through setting an intention, right? Which remember is setting your attentional filter to remain aware of a specific purpose. We did some breath work, which is using your breath as a way to regulate your sympathetic nervous system. And so then we talked about patience, especially the patience that's required to start a new personal practice or any goal setting or anything new, especially as we come into the new year, right? So now let's do a quick mindfulness activity. So what I'd like you to do is, I think all of you have at least a piece of paper. So on the paper that you have, or a scratch piece of paper or something, I'd like you to just sign your name. All right. Now, what I want you to do, you signed it like you always do. Now I want you to take it and do it backwards. So you're starting at the last stroke of your last name and following that line, but you're going backwards. You can trace over the same one you just did. Okay, and always be mindful. Always reflect back. How did that feel in comparison to just signing it? All right, now for the third thing I want you to switch to your non-dominant hand and do beginning to end. So you can trace over it again with your non-dominant hand, beginning to end. All right, and you probably know what's coming next. With your non-dominant hand, trace it from end to beginning. And compare, like, which was the easiest? Obviously, probably the first one. You probably signed it without even thinking about it, right? But then of the next three, which one was like, can you rate them in order of difficulty, or which one forced you to be the most mindful and concentrate the hardest on being here and now? You want to unmute yourself or drop it in the chat? I'd love to know. I know which one my most difficult and mindfulness one is.
Well, mine was writing it backwards from end to beginning.
With which hand?
My dominant hand,
Really? Okay.
which is interesting. I don't know. I just had a fall and I injured my right wrist pretty badly. So I've been having a lot of practice. So maybe this isn't fair. I've had a lot of practice with my left hand. So I'm becoming more ambidextrous, I guess. But I just, that to me was the most challenging.
Okay. That's unexpected to me. So I'm glad you shared that.
I know.
And Lindsay says it's the same thing. So yeah, you are not alone. Carla
Hey.
says, Carla says backwards with non-dominant hand. Okay, Carla, you and I are together on that one, right? Because I think, writing my name, my non-dominant hand backwards, that was almost torture. Yeah. I know when I was in grade school, I don't know if your music teacher did this, but when I was in grade school, we would get these big, our music teacher would come in and she'd bring the piano, right? Because like she'd push the piano down the hall and she'd bring in these big pieces of butcher paper and markers. And we'd have to make these song maps. So we'd learn the song. And then as we sang the song, we'd just kind of doodle a map, like a song map. And then we'd have to go through and sing it again and trace over our same doodle pathway and see if we ended up at the same point at the same time. So yeah, that was part of my fourth grade music experience. All right. Next up then is our yoga. So we're going to do some desk yoga here. We're
Well,
going to
wait,
start.
Lindsay had a quick comment, Matt. She said backward of my dominant, I was really intentional and needed to focus. I think it was making me think as the unexpected factor. So I was ready for the non-dominant. That's interesting. For me, it was like, I'm so used to writing with my right hand very quickly. I really had to focus of not doing it quickly. So I think that's why it was more difficult for me to use my dominant hand writing backwards than my non-dominant hand, because I had to be so much more laser focused not to quickly just do what I normally do with that hand. So
Fair. Okay. So how do you think it would be if you tried to sign your name, not tracing over the one that you already wrote, but just did it like on a blank piece of paper?
like if I had to do it backwards or just sign my
Yeah,
name.
backwards with your dominant hand.
Oh,
Could
wow.
you
I
do
don't
it?
know. Is that a challenge? A challenge for postscript from this
Do people
event?
get extra credit?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so extra credit for anybody that wants to try that. So, yeah, I don't know. I'll report back.
Okay. Yeah. Because I know my students would be asking me, Mr. Weld, is this extra credit? Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you get for extra credit? You get a practice in patience.
You do.
Yes, a
You
gift
do.
that keeps on giving.
The gift that, well, yeah, that and guilt, right? All right. Anybody else have any comments on the mindfulness activity? Anything we've done so far?
I'll mention something. I'm going to go back to the breath work and then just acknowledging, the interesting aspects of breath work. And, for some, like that's always a good invitational practice, but then noticing like how the breath might be in some of our bodies. For like sometimes it is a very activating experience. Like for me, it is a very activating experience when I hold my breath. um, but knowing like it's creating that relationship and trust with the breath, trust with the self, and just it's really interesting because I've been starting to study a little bit more with breath work and how our nervous system really, like the average amount of breath retention before the activation starts is around 20 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds. But then after that 30-second space is when really we can start bringing the nervous system back down. Like for me, I've been working on just being aware of my breath hold time. And so in the mornings, just starting to be aware of that. And so just before starting the day, you can already know where your system is at by your breath hold time. And it's really interesting just to see how it shifts and like what you were, even eating the night before or all of that. And so it's just a really interesting space in case anybody here is interested in exploring that further, but then also validating that the breath isn't always a safe place yet. And these practices help us to get there. So even if we're not able to hold, a breath for an extended period of time, knowing that we're exactly where we need to be and just creating that relationship in a safe way for your breath if you are exploring that breath. So I do want to just put that here in our space as well.
Thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate the acknowledgement that the reminder, yeah, that breath, because it is so close to our sympathetic nervous system, that we do have to be aware of what it may trigger and what it's so connected to in our own bodies. And what it's like in my body is definitely different than what's going to be like for you, for example. Yeah. So thank you for that. All right. Moving then on to a little bit of desk yoga. So see, we got about 21 minutes. Let's do let's start seated. All right, we're going to start seated and we're just going to work on the spine just a little bit. And remember that unless you just came out of a yoga practice, this is probably the first time you've been doing something today. And so be gentle, right? We're going to be doing some twisting because the spine goes in 3 directions, right? It goes left and right. It goes backward and forward, and then it twists. And sometimes it does all those together throughout our day. Now we're going to isolate them, but please be careful and don't overdo it. Just because I say twist, maybe you only go like this far, right? Because that's what your body allows. This isn't a contest. As we always say in yoga, there are no medals in yoga, right? All right. So once again, maybe you want to move to the edge of your seat just a little bit. Okay. Pretend you're in a music class. If you've ever been in music class, sit up nice and tall. Okay. Elongate that spine. Now you don't want to be like super duper tall, like and you're all tense, right? So you want to sit with a comfortable, relaxed, but maybe pretend that there's a string coming out the top of your head. It's being drawn to the ceiling. That'll help keep your neck also straight. Take a nice breath in and just let it out. All right. And then on the next breath in, raise your arms up over your head. And just because it feels good, let's just exhale and put them back down. Bring them back up again, but this time grab your left wrist with your right hand. Pull that left wrist up to the ceiling. Okay, you can't see it on my camera, but you're going to pull it all the way up to the ceiling. And now bend over to the right. Gently, gently. Stay breathing. This is not a place to hold your breath. This is a place to keep breathing. Even though that right side of your body is contracted, you can breathe into your left side, right? Okay, bring it back up on an inhale. We're going to do that movement again. This time, what I want you to do, though, is I want you to think about sticking those left ribs out first. Stick them out first and then lean over. And I bet you won't go over as far. Okay? Keep pulling that left hand. Keep those ribs sticking out. As your eyes are closed or your gaze is turned inward, explore that space where you're breathing into. And then come back up to center on a breath in. Change your grip out. So now you're grabbing onto your right wrist. Pull it up to the ceiling. Stick those right ribs out and bend over to the left. All the while pulling on your right wrist. Really feeling the stretch on your right side body. Breathing in and out through your nose. Back up to center on an inhale. And then come bring your elbows down to cactus arms or football. And then what we're going to do here is this is the forward and backward. So we're going to take our elbows, and on an exhale, when we empty our lungs, we're going to contract, right? You can do a bear hug, you can put your elbows together, whatever's accessible for you. And then when we breathe in, when we expand, our chest is moving forward, we're opening our heart space, we're breathing air in. Okay. And then each time we do that, we're going to do it 3 times. The motion is going to become bigger, more contracted, or more open. All right. So here we are, neutral position, goalpost arms. All right. Take a breath in, take your elbows back, shoulder blades together. And then as you breathe out, just bring your elbows together. Maybe they touch, maybe they don't. And as you breathe in, make this movement a little bit farther, bigger than you did last time. Maybe your chin goes up a little bit. And contract on the exhale. Push those shoulder blades out through your back. As you breathe in, open it up. Biggest one yet. Open that heart space, really breathe in, and then let it all out. Contract all the way down. Your chin goes down to your chest, maybe your elbows to your knees. And then come back up to seated. Arms up over your head on an inhale, twist to the right. You're not hanging on to anything. Okay. This is how far your body can twist. Okay. Without help. So keep it here to begin with. And then put your left hand down on your right knee and your right hand behind you somewhere. Your spine is still nice and straight. On a breath in, you lengthen your spine. On a breath out, maybe you help your back twist. Maybe help twist a little bit. Okay. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, twist. Maybe even look over your right shoulder. On the next breath in, let go of everything. Okay. Work your obliques a little bit. Hold that twist, because remember, twists originate in the core, and then bring it back to center. Work it out. Get your spine back in alignment. Okay. Arms up overhead on an inhale. Twist to the other side. Opposite hand to opposite knee. Right hand somewhere behind you. And I'm do 3 of those breaths on your own. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, twist. Good, and then come back to center. And exhale everything down where they are. right? Get your spine in place. Okay. 7:46. Let's do some quick standing yoga. All right. All right, let's work through warrior 1, warrior 2, reverse warrior, and maybe into a quick extended side angle. All right. So I want you to face the left-hand side of your space. Both feet together. Okay, left, right, stomp, stomp. So your feet are hips width distance apart. Now take a step forward with your left foot. Take a step backward with your right foot. Turn your right foot to 45 degrees. Okay, you're not on a balance beam or you'll fall over. Your feet are actually apart. All right, bend that left knee down. So the knee is over the ankle. Pull that right kneecap up. So your right thigh is tense. Okay. Arms up overhead. So your biceps are next to your ears. Maybe sink a little bit lower. And now do a body scan. Wiggle your toes. You're not gripping the floor with your toes, but your right leg is stiff. Your left leg is engaged. Your core is engaged. Your arms are engaged all the way up to your fingers, and then wiggle your fingers. Good. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and open up to warrior 2. So you're going to have to adjust your back foot probably so your feet are perpendicular to each other. Arms are parallel to the floor. Take that left knee back a little bit. Tuck your tailbone. Tense your right leg. Pull that right kneecap up. Keep those arms tense. Good. Now flip the left palm. Take that left hand up to the ceiling. Right hand down. Maybe just kind of rest on the back leg there. Maybe you look up to the ceiling. Maybe not. Good. And now bring that left elbow down to the left knee. Right hand up to the ceiling. Maybe you look up at the ceiling. Maybe you take your right shoulder back a little bit. It's a quick practice, so don't go crazy. Good. Come back up to warrior 2. So your arms are parallel to the floor. Bring that stance back together. So you're high mountain. Feet are together facing me. Let's do the other side. So you're facing the right side of your space. Left, right, stomp, stomp. Okay, right foot out a step. Left foot back a step. Left foot at 45 degrees. Bend that right knee down so your knee is over your ankle. Tense everything. We're building this from the bottom up, from the floor to your fingers, right? All right. Pull that right hip back. Send that left hip forward a little bit. Get your hips in line. Tense your core, biceps by your ears. Quick body scan from the floor to the ceiling. Is everything engaged? Can you wiggle your toes? All right. Open up to warrior 2. So your feet are perpendicular to each other, arms parallel to the floor. Tuck that tailbone. You don't want to be sticking your butt out, right? Your spine is still nice and straight. Take your shoulders up next to your ears and roll them back. Good. Okay. Flip the right palm. Take it up to the ceiling. Left hand grazes that left thigh. Maybe look up to the ceiling, stretch. We've done this before. Okay. We felt that stretch in our right side body. Feel it again. And then slowly and with patience, bring that right elbow down to your right knee. Fluidly, left arm to the ceiling, left hand like you're going to touch the ceiling. Check in with your breath. Where are you? Breathe into the spaces that might be uncomfortable. Good. Slowly and with control, bring your torso back up to warrior 2 and then back together. All right. And because it's the most fun when you flow, Let's do a quick breath to movement flow. All right, so face the left side. Here we go. Get into warrior one. So inhale, arms up overhead. Your feet are at the warrior one position. As you exhale, breathe it down to warrior two. Inhale, flip that front palm. Exhale, left hand to the ceiling. Inhale, try to touch the ceiling. And on a breath out, elbow to knee, right hand to the ceiling. Stay for the inhale. Exhale, back to warrior two. Stay for the inhale. And as you exhale, settle back down into the high mountain pose. Facing me. Okay, and switch to the other side. So on an inhale, get your feet in position, lift those arms up overhead, and boom, settle into the pose on the exhale. Stay for the inhale, and as you breathe out, warrior two. Flip that front right palm on the inhale, and exhale, reverse. Inhale, and as you breathe out, elbow to knee. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, come back to warrior two. Breathe in, everything back together. And there we are. All right. Very good. Gonna go ahead and have a seat. All right. I don't know if you want to drop in the chat something about that. Some people love yoga. Other people are like, I'll just watch. Yeah, it's all good. Good to move after sitting. Yeah. Well, anyone who's training for an ultra marathon clearly thrives off movement. Oh my gosh. All right. So we've done intention, we've done breath work, we've done mindfulness, we've talked about patience and impatience and all the adjacent emotions and skills. Excuse me. And then we also did a quick yoga sequence. And so now let's end with a guided meditation, because any one of those things, intention, breath work, mindfulness, yoga, and meditation, could be a personal practice in mindfulness. And so as you're working to set something up for yourself, because I truly, truly, truly believe that we cannot find our true selves and to be fully committed and healthy in our helping professions that we've chosen if we do not work on ourselves first. Right. And we have to have some kind of mindfulness practice, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe it's exercise. Maybe it's meditating. Maybe it's gardening, right? Whatever. But something that allows us silence. And I think we all need a little bit of solitude. Some of us need it more than others, right? But I hope that you do develop some kind of practice that helps you find yourself so that you can truly connect with you and find what matters. Because there's a difference between like recharging yourself and then filling yourself back up. We can take a break and scroll on our phones, and like the kids aren't around anymore. And so it's a break. But to really fill ourselves up, we need to do something, whatever activity it is, where we can lose ourselves in it. That fills our bucket, right? All right. So I need to get off that little soapbox here. So let's just settle in for a quick meditation here. So find a comfortable seat. Find your breath. Let's talk a little bit about equanimity. Equanimity is the skill to just accept things as they come. I'd say it's pretty adjacent to patience. Equanimity arises through continued mindfulness. So just take a moment here and be mindful of what you are feeling in your body right now. Be mindful of where your mind is right now. All right, now I'm going to give you a pair of words. Okay, and what I'd like you to do is think about how you respond to each one, both mentally and physically, and how they differ. All right, so the first pair is praise and blame. So contemplate the reaction in your body and in your mind when someone compliments you. How do you feel? In what ways do compliments throw you off balance? And then try feeling it in your body. What would it feel like if you could receive a compliment and then remain stable in your body and your mind? All right, what about criticism? What do you think? What do you feel? Is it possible to receive criticism and with mindfulness remain present and undisturbed? Develop what a hint of what that might feel like in your body. That's equanimity. And it comes with patience. So take one more breath in and a freeing breath out. And then maybe flutter your eyes open, noticing what's near. And then farther away and farther away still until you are back in time and space. And then thank you to Kazim for inviting me to talk a little bit about the 5 practices of developing a new mindfulness practice with the theme of patience tonight. I hope you all have a great evening or whatever time of day it is when you're watching this.
It was so great, Matt. Thank you so much for framing a mindfulness practice with these, um, I guess, points of reference. That's what I'm trying to think of. These points of reference, how we enter, as you say, a gateway into becoming a mindful practitioner, rebooting, renewing our mindfulness practice. It's really great to come to this as I really tried to tonight with a beginner's mindset. If you're new to mindfulness, these are great gateways. If you've been practicing mindfulness for a long time, it's always great to learn from others and how they approach mindfulness. I want to take a few moments here. I know it's 8:01, so if anybody needs to log off, thank you so much for joining. If you are on demand watching and if you have questions, you can always email grow@educatingmindfully.com or .org with those questions. But if anybody has questions for Matt or thoughts, please come off mute or put those in the chat for the next minute here. I'll open up the space for that. Lots of thank yous.
Thank you for the thank yous. It's very meta, but I appreciated it. I can also be reached at weldmatthew@gmail.com.
And we'll put the link to the document that Matt shared tonight, along with Matt's contact information, in our PD library on our members site. Also, I will be sending links to our attendance form and our feedback form in an email tomorrow. So those that are attending tonight, you'll receive those links in an email tomorrow from me. It was great to see other ways we can integrate practices, says Lindsay, from others within our community. Absolutely. I know one that has been involved in mindful education for a long time. It's always great to get re-inspired from the way others approach the practices, and just a great reminder to each day begin in that beginner's mindset to and I love this theme, Matt, this idea of patience as we close out one year and we head into the new year in a few weeks. Hard to believe we're about to approach 2025. And I think this was a very approachable way, right? Like just having these points of reference to enter mindfulness through intention, breath work, yoga, meditation, reflection. So thank you. All right. If no questions, thank you all for joining tonight. Please expect that email from me tomorrow. And thank you.